Welcome, everyone, to Art on Demand, a program supported by the Allegany Arts Council. I'm Maggie Pratt, arts educator and professional artist, and your host for this ongoing series. Art on Demand uses student-focused art lessons to explore exhibitions taking place in the Allegany Arts Council galleries. Each month, a new lesson is presented which explores themes of the exhibiting artist. This month, we are treated to work by Fairfax, Virginia-based artist Travis Childers. Travis is an artist and curator with more than 20 years of museum experience, and he has worked in the Smithsonian American Art Museum and the Hillwood Estate. Travis is also the founder and curator of Ruby Projects, an independent contemporary art gallery in Virginia. Much of Travis's work focuses on creating art from everyday items and incorporating them into collages and other unique works. The use of staplers, office supplies, and even doll furniture challenges us to think about the things we use daily in new and exciting ways. Today's project, called Hang It, Your Story Goes Three-Dimensional, will take inspiration from the sculptural collages that Travis creates. So I wanted to run through the materials that you will need for this project today. As Travis Childers was a fan of using recycled and everyday materials, I thought it would be good if we did the same thing for your collage sculpture. So you will need a recycled cardboard box of any size. This is a soup box. You could use an Amazon box. Any size will work that you have around the house. It could be a shoe box, it could be a cereal or popcorn box or dog biscuit box. Any of those things will work just fine. It's good if it has both a top and a bottom, though, so we're going to want to close this box up. You will also need a glue stick. You will need some scissors. You will need some sturdy tape and some string, clear tape and some string, some sturdy twine, and you will need a couple of magazines or seed catalogs or catalogs from anybody that might come into your mail, your third-class mail, that you can cut up. So make sure that you you feel comfortable that what you're cutting up is okay with the folks at home. And I do believe we might add some objects from everyday use, as Travis Childers did, possibly some things that will fit the theme of your project. So to begin, you'll take your cardboard box of choice, and we're going to want to cut a piece of your heavy string, like so, and double it. So this is the only part where you have to be a little bit careful. In the corner of this box, artists often have to plan ahead. So in order to suspend this or hang this, because you've got to think about your presentation, how will this piece be displayed, we have to plan ahead for that. So if we had closed the box up to make your actual sculptural project, we wouldn't be able to go into the inside and create the hanging system. So I'm going to put my scissors through one corner like this and just enlarge that corner just a little bit. And then if I'm really lucky, I'll be able to get my string through that hole, and it works just fine. On the inside, I'm going to make a really big knot so that it does not pull out, because that would not be very cool to have your artwork collapse somewhere. Then I just want to take a piece of the clear tape and secure that knot on the inside of my box. Pull my knot through and secure that with a piece of tape on the inside, like so. So now I'm going to close up the box, and I have the basis for my three-dimensional sculptural collage. So next step would be back to your clear tape and tape the box shut. If it has any loose labels or anything that you think would be distracting, you can take those off before you get started. This one I think will be just fine. I just want to make sure that this does not come apart at any point. So when you're making art, you have lots of decisions to make. So the first decision that I'd like you to think about is just exactly what sort of message or story, because we did say this was your three-dimensional story, what sort of story do you think you might like to tell? Art can be narrative, which means that it does tell a story or has a theme, and a theme is usually something that explores one idea in deep detail. So a good story could be about just about anything. It could be about your family, your pets. It could be about a news item. It could be something that you dreamt. So now that you know how to assemble your box for the basis for your sculpture, I don't really need this anymore. So bye-bye. And this little fella, I'm not using him either. He goes back to the recycling bin. Bye-bye. Okay, I have started a project for you guys just so that you could get an idea of my thinking and where I'm going with this. And you see that I do have my string attached, so eventually this will be able to be hung someplace in your home. I chose the theme of water because water is a pretty critical element to all of life, including the health of our human bodies, which are made up of approximately about 70% of water. So, that's a pretty important resource. So many countries in the world do not have this clean resource, and I'm sure you all are familiar with climate change, which means that oceans are changing and temperatures are changing. So since we're telling a story, I wanted mine to be about water as a natural and critical resource. So let me show you what I have done so far. So I went through a couple of magazines and I pulled out all kinds of pictures that I could find that were relevant or showed water in one form or another, whether wildlife that lives in water, there's a pretty interesting character, photographs of water, photographs of more wildlife, sometimes some people fishing, any kind of thing. There's a school of fish, anything I could find that was water related. I have a couple pictures of some divers doing research. So I just wanted my project to reflect the nature of water. So you might notice that I have a lady's profile here. And you might notice that I've cut out a couple of other overlapped shapes to show that she's crying. And this is part of my story. What do you think she's crying about? As you think about water and the environment, maybe she's worried about the fact that water is polluted. And on that note, on this side, I just thought of this morning, actually. I went and got one of these terrible plastic container things that holds your soda bottles. And when you recycle those, it's good to throw them into recycling, but to cut them up first, I decided to apply this to my fishies to show that, it is a detrimental thing for the ocean, and fish get caught all the time and die. So this is a statement. I'm telling a story about why that's a bad thing. What else? I haven't quite finished this yet, as you'll see. Here I have a Dasani water label, which is, we drink so much bottled water, remember to recycle the bottles. On the top, I decided it was getting a little flat, and I wanted to add some tissue paper to indicate waves and movement. And I have some spare spaces left over that I will work on. Oh, and don't forget the bottom. Since this is a three-dimensional project, that means that you will see this in all sides, not just from the front and the back. So you've got to make sure that all surfaces are covered and that you tell your story from all sides. No one side is more important than the other. It just figures into how you display the final piece. So take your time. Neatness counts in art. It really matters. If you have a scroungy looking edge on your collage papers, it would be good to go back and glue it down. So I will go through a couple of other images to see what I might find that would be interesting. Here I have a picture of coral reef, and we know that coral reefs are also endangered. So I'm just going to cut that part out. I don't necessarily want the kids in there. And I will find a spot that hasn't been covered yet. Probably my bottom is looking pretty lonely right now. So I'm just going to work that image in. And that's where your glue stick comes in. Again, you're telling a story, so you want to try to find pictures that relate to the idea that you have in your mind. Whatever that idea is, it doesn't have to tell an environmental story. That was just what I decided to choose. I didn't think that up ahead of time either. So, art can be very spontaneous. The idea came to me as I was going through my National Geographic magazines, and I was finding all of these images about water and research and facts about water. And the more I thought about it, I decided that's what I wanted to make my collage about, to teach a lesson, also to inform, and to make a statement, because that's what art does. Lots of times, art is very much expressing opinions. However, if you don't want to do that, you can just make your sculpture with random shapes and colors. It would be an abstract piece, and your story would be one of maybe color and shape and line and texture. So I will finish this up and add a few more images. And I also think I had another idea this morning. I found a water bottle, and I thought, how am I going to attach that? I cut it up to show that it's been in the environment for a long time and it's a little bit destroyed, but I couldn't think of a way to do it until I realized I could string it right through the string on my hanger. And it almost looks like, it looks a little bit like this jellyfish, and it also is hard to miss. So it reminds us that plastic does not belong in the ocean and that we should recycle things appropriately and carefully at all times. It's also an extra three-dimensional piece. Like Travis Childers did, he used objects from everyday life to make a statement. So I thought, well, why not include a water bottle since I'm worrying about recycling and keeping things out of the ocean. So that's the basis for my story. I am curious to know what you'll pick for yours. We hope you enjoyed this month's Art on Demand program, and remember, you can find all of our programs via YouTube at Allegany Arts Council, or visit us in person with your family through January 29th to see the Childers exhibit in person. To learn more about our work and see upcoming events, please visit us at www.alleganyartscouncil.org. There, you can also view the current exhibit of Travis Childers. And so, until next time, stay creative.